Today's video out in the wilds of Vancouver Island is brought to you by Squarespace. Good morning, everybody. Right, it's quite funny. The spot where I'm staying, or just slept overnight, is just a pull out on the side of a logging road, and it's not terribly inspiring. There's logging slash behind me, and it's pretty much in the middle of nowhere. The funny thing is, though, there's a golf course right in front of me, and there's a guy cutting the lawn, which is really odd because this golf course is in the middle of nowhere. It's just, I don't know, it's just a bit of a contrast. And actually last night I had a visit by a couple of policemen wondering what I was doing here. And that's the very first for me, because I really am in the middle of nowhere. I think since I've been here I've seen 2 cars. But you know, unfortunately in these areas you get a lot of vandalism, especially people dumping garbage. People firing off their firearms, poaching, you name it. You know, when it comes to the wilderness areas, people just tend to go wild for some reason. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure why. Anyway, it is what it is. Anyway, they didn't mind me staying here. It was just kind of strange to see these 2 cops here in the middle of the night, no lights or anything. Anyway, today. Now, yesterday was it was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge. The biggest challenge for me is trying to envision what something's going to look at eye level. Now, what I usually do is just walk around without my tripod, have the screen flipped up so I can see the viewfinder, and keep, you know, going to little areas that I think might work. Because basically, I'm shooting at eye level to the flowers, which is really difficult because they're quite low to the ground, but I want to shoot across, not down at them, and that's where the problem comes in. So I'm going to try again this morning for a couple of hours, see if I can get another couple of shots of the pink fawn lilies, and hopefully find a nice group or a nice specimen of Western Trillium. The other wildflowers, there aren't that many, and I've got a feeling I'm just too early. I guess I'm just enthusiastic to get out and start getting some spring shots, but I do think I'm just a little bit early, because I noticed behind me here there's some shrubs with little pink flowers on them called salmonberry, and the hummingbirds just love the salmonberry, but they're just coming out now, so it's still early days. And actually last time I was in this spot, there was still a little bit of snow on the side of the road, and that was only maybe 4 weeks ago. So, you know, it might be still early here. We might be at a slightly higher elevation. This is inland a little bit. It's not as close to the coast. Right, enough blabbering on. Just going to finish my tea, and then we'll head back into the woods and see what we can find. Okay, so the light is a little bit flat today, which is fine for this type of photography. Wildflower photography or close-up photography, I actually really like it when it's overcast like this. It just makes it so much easier to deal with any kind of contrast. The problem with the woods on a sunny day is that you get these specular highlights that are really hard to get rid of in certain areas, and it just causes all kinds of problems. Now, I've been looking around for some trillium. There are lots around here, but they all seem to be individual flowers. I've been here other times where there's been clumps of them. I guess they're more established, but these all seem to be either very young plants, or perhaps they're just starting to come out, which is quite possible. I'm just keen to get moving on this. Now, I have come across 3 trilliums right here, and I had a composition in mind that I thought I'd like to try out, and I don't know, I guess it's kind of a tip. I'm not sure. It's just something that I like to look for. Whenever I'm photographing individual flowers, I tend to try and shoot them in in uneven numbers, so 1, 3, 5, and so on. But every now and then, like a situation like this, it's very hard to come up with a group of them that are close together. So what I like to do is, if I'm just going to photograph one individual flower, rather than just having a portrait of that one flower, I try to look for situations where I might have another flower in the background, but keep it very blurry. So in this case, I'll have the dominant trillium in the foreground that's nice and sharp, or at least the stamens are sharp, and then try to arrange my camera so that there's another trillium in the background, but it's blurry. So you know what it is by just the rough outline of the blurry flower. And what it does, it just fills in the frame, the empty spaces. It's probably easier to show you on my camera rather than try to explain it. So why don't I do that right now? All right, so this is the composition that I have, and you'll notice that I have two trilliums. The dominant trillium, or the one that's in sharp focus, is on the right, and then in the background I have a blurry one, and there's some nice bokeh in there. And the reason why I've done it this way is because we don't really need to see the detail of this trillium in the background. It's there just more or less to fill in that corner of the frame. You'll notice that the trillium's kind of looking into the frame rather than out, just to draw your eye into the center of the frame there. Now, as far as f-stop goes, I have to be a little bit careful here because I do want more than the stamens to be in sharp focus. It'd be nice if I could get this petal in sharp focus as well, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that. The problem is that as soon as I start to stop down, the background starts to come into sharp focus as well, and I don't really want that. So I might have to focus stack this a little bit, because I'm using a 70 to 200, and I'm racked out at 200 millimeters, and I'm at the minimum focusing distance, which is 1 meter. So, there isn't an awful lot of depth wide open, that's for sure. So I can kind of show you here. That's a great thing about this camera. There's a button on here where you can get a depth of field preview. So if I press that and just muck about with the f-stops here. So right now we're f4.5, and the stamens should be relatively sharp, but you'll notice that as I stop down, I'll go all the way to f22 or 32, which I never use. You'll notice that the background is quite sharp, and I don't want that. Even though this flower would be great, this would not be so great. So I'm going to have to make a bit of a compromise here. So what I'll probably end up doing is just zooming in here. If I can find the zoom button, you'll notice that the stamens are sharp, but as soon as I go down to the petal here, it's unsharp. So what I might do is take a shot of that petal that's sharp, and I'm at f7.1. Let's make that 5.6. So we'll just make sure that that's nice and sharp. Now I've had to use ISO 200 so that I'm at 1/25 of a second, because the flower is moving a little bit with the wind. So we'll just take a shot of that. And then what we'll do is we'll take another shot of the flowers again, except this time we're going to focus on the stamens. Like that. So you can see it moving in there. Okay, we'll take another shot. And then I'll just combine those two images, and so we should have a reasonably nicely sharp flower in the foreground, and then this will be nice and blurry in the background. So let's just have a look at that. Looks pretty nice. Anyway, it's just a composition technique that I use quite often, just to fill in those blank spaces. And you'll notice that in this image, the background is very dark. It's actually a log with some moss on it, but because of the contrast, it almost comes out black, which is great because it's a really nice contrast with the white flowers. Okay, so you've taken all of these wonderful images, now what? Well, a great way to showcase your best work without much effort or knowledge about building a website is to give Squarespace a try. One of the reasons why I chose Squarespace was that Squarespace has many wonderful templates to choose from that are very quick and easy to set up and also update on the go using your cell phone. Want a free trial? Go to squarespace.com, and if you enter the code AdamGibbs, receive 10% off your first purchase. Hello everybody. Hope you're all doing really well. Mossy Maple Grove. Try and say that fast 10 times, or in this case, I've been calling it Messy Mossy Maple Grove. I've come out here today with Gavin. Gavin's been here once before, and I'd never been here before. Now this is actually on the way to Carmanah at the end of Cowichan Lake. And he was kind of telling me the directions, and I'm like, well, it sounds like I should have passed it. I mean, I've been out this way dozens of times, so you know, I can't believe that I've never stopped here. Well, there's actually a logging road that goes to the side of the main logging road, which is where I've missed this grove of trees. So the Mossy Maple Grove is big leaf maples. Now this area has been logged, but we have all these wonderful kind of twisted big leaf maples covered in green moss. And it's really beautiful in here. There's a little bit of a river back here, and of course we have the maples. Now you know what's coming next. I've been wandering around for about 15-20 minutes now, and there are some great trees with character, but it is extremely messy in here. A lot of deadfall. The ferns are still looking a little bit rough. I mean, I was only in Carmanah a week ago, and you know, they've had snow in here, so the ferns are looking quite flat. Now the ferns on the trees here, they're looking really good. And actually this time of year, this is when they kind of look their best. Later in the summer, they start to dry up and don't look so great. I don't know, I'm going to look around and see if I can find something. I am struggling in this place though. Part of the problem, as usual, is the light. When we first came here, there was a little bit of sunlight coming through and it was backlighting these trees, and that's why we stopped here, because it just looked absolutely fantastic. But now that light is gone and it doesn't look quite as interesting. It's, you know, it's kind of flat. So it's going to be all about composition and trying to find a good composition, and then adding perhaps a little bit of light or the illusion of light in Lightroom and Photoshop afterwards. But you know, the problem I'm having with this area is trying to isolate things. It's just a big mass of greenery and sticks and everything. So that's where the challenge comes in. As most of you probably know by now, because I mentioned it in all of my videos. All right, I've been looking for quite some time now, and I was just about to give up. And actually I'm on the road, just started to walk back to the car, and I think I might have found a composition. It's pretty busy, but I think it might work. We'll have to see. I like it. I mean, on the back of my camera, it looks quite good. What I found here is two opposing trees with their branches kind of sweeping into the middle. The problem is that they don't really point to anything. It's just a nice pattern shot. We have the background, which is extremely busy, but it has some, I don't know, really lovely textures in there. So I'm going to take the shot anyway, because I just like those textures and the greens and the sweeping branches coming into the center. I'll show you the composition that I have. Obviously, this would work way better if it had just a little bit of directional light, perhaps coming from the back, like when we first got here. But I don't think that's going to happen. Actually, when we left the house this morning, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, but it's clouded over pretty quick. Probably because we're heading out to the west coast, where it tends to be quite a bit cloudier most of the time. Anyway, I'll show you the composition that I have. Like I said, I'm not sure if this one's going to work or not. I guess I'm just taking it more or less out of desperation to find something. All right, this is the composition that I have, and as you can see, it's relatively simple in that I just have these sweeping branches that kind of swoop in from the sides there. The only problem is they don't really point to anything other than a group of trees in the background. Now, I'll be the first to admit that's a little bit busy and this might not work. Obviously, a little bit of fog or atmospheric haze would help a great deal in this shot, or even a little bit of backlighting on the branches here. But I'm still going to go ahead and take the shot because I think it'll be a good reference shot for perhaps when I come back and I get better conditions. And actually, as I look at this, there's a larger gap on the right side than the left side, so I might try and readjust that so that these trees are kind of the center of interest. See, that's the problem. We just need those branches in to point into something, and there isn't a really strong subject that they point to other than a rather busy background. Well, I have to be honest, I'm still on the fence with this one. The branches reaching into the middle of the frame, I absolutely love. The part that I find just a little bit disturbing, or perhaps not really in my favor, is just that really busy background. As I said in my blurb there while I was standing in this spot, I think this image probably could have used a little bit of atmospheric fog or haze, or even just a little bit of backlighting on those branches in the foreground. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't post this video earlier, because I wasn't too sure whether the image was really that great. And then I thought, well, I can't just keep posting all of my images that I think are successful. I think it's really helpful to post the ones that I'm not sure about as well, and kind of see the struggles and the thoughts that go through my head when I'm putting these things together, and the reasons behind taking these images. Regardless, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this photograph. Either way, let me know in the comments down below. And once again, thank you ever so much for watching this video. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also if you enjoy the content of my channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Alright everybody, until next week, thanks ever so much for watching. Bye for now.